Welcome, Steve. We are having this podcast today to celebrate the first anniversary of you discovering Angelina Jordan.
It was almost exactly a year ago. I happen to know the date. I don't know the song, but I know the date when I first heard her. It was February 12th of a year ago. And before I get to that, thank you very much for having me on. It's really an honor to be here with you two. I've watched every episode of Wrapped in a Warm Blanket. That was part of my steep learning curve education process when I first found out about Angelina and went down the rabbit hole. And you all really helped me understand what I was feeling and not really understanding this reaction, this emotional connection that she makes that had me in a little bit of a, it was wonderful, but it was a little bit of a state of confusion for the first few weeks and months.
Yeah.
Well, Steve, you're amongst equals because Pontus and I are still going through a steep learning curve. And we're still learning about how we feel and why it's all happening. Rumors of our being highly prepared are over exaggerated. We're just winging it as we go along as well.
Glad to hear we're all in the same boat.
Yeah.
Tell us what the last year has been like for you.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. The theme for this podcast, the one phrase that came to mind was a year of joy.
Yeah.
It's just been amazing. And I started out, I discovered I went down the rabbit hole right away. I found an email that I sent to my kids and my wife 3 days after I discovered her. And I was recommending Bohemian Rhapsody, and I Put a Spell on You, and Seventh Heaven, and started raving about this musician I had found. And then it just went from there. Like I said, down the rabbit hole, listened to everything I could as far as her music. I found out what a reactor was. I used to think that has something to do with nuclear power. I didn't know that there was such a thing as reactors on YouTube. I watched reactors again, watched you guys. I watched some of the documentaries, including one I think that you all put together, which are just wonderful. And so from there, one of the things I noticed, it was a little frustrating in that I was starting to get to know some of the fans and starting to interact a little bit, but it was only online. It was only through YouTube comments and maybe some social media, which I was just learning about too for the first time, really. And so the next best thing I found, and that was fun, but there was something lacking, the lack of person to person interaction, physical, being in the same space. So the next best thing I found was live streams. So there's a couple of reactors who do live streams now. And at least there you can interact with other angels in real time through the comment section. And that was like a little bit of a step up in sort of gratification in interacting with people. And then, of course, the mountaintop for this is the concerts. And I missed Norway in 2022, but definitely went to Portsmouth in 2023. And that was just wonderful to meet other angels and do some other projects. So that was part of the magical year of joy, was just meeting other fans and going through this fandom experience, which I had never experienced. And so another brand new thing to me was being a fan of a musician as wonderful as Angelina is. So this is February. So then in July, I started getting these ideas of these projects that I want to do, and a pattern developed. It wasn't anything planned. It just organically happened, where I got these kind of a little bit offbeat ideas. And so I'd put it out either to a few other angels or on social media and see if anyone thought it was a good idea too. And in each case, got some positive response. And then in each case, a little team developed. And sometimes it just happened. And other times it was a little bit of I had to find somebody. And in each case, the projects involve a lot of angels in terms of them participating in the project. And then thinking back, why was that? And I think it's this communal fan experience that we go through. I just wanted to work on these projects that would involve a bunch of angels. So in one case, it was about 20. In one case, it was about 40. In another case, it was a couple hundred participants. And so that's been just so much fun to see an idea come to life and work with some other wonderful people in these small teams that formed to make them happen. And there were a few sort of aspects. One was they were all inspired by Angelina. So, like I'm sure you guys know the same thing. All these wonderful things we do and crazy things we do are inspired by her and our love of her music and a love of her person and her family and the story with giving away her shoes.
And have you had any experience of doing stuff like this before you started listening to Angelina?
No, not at all.
What is striking to me, Steve, is how once you become a really heavy fan of Angelina Jordan, you actualize yourself on a certain level. For example, Mike Richards is a photographer, and he has developed photo montages, which he puts out. And symbolically, you are attorney in the field of patents, and you are coming up with original ideas over and over again to inject into the Angelina Jordan community.
Yeah, and it's just been so rewarding. And like you're saying, I'm a patent attorney, so I work with inventors. So I work with really creative people. But I'm on the other side of the fence, and I just work to try to get their inventions patented. I never really invented anything myself that I felt should be patented. And so I always felt, no, maybe I'm just not all that creative. And no, that's okay. I work with these wonderful people who are. But this last year, I'm thinking, wow, with inspiration from Angelina, I am doing some creative things, or what I think are creative and so enjoyable. And so now I see why people, not just inventors, but artists, some of them I think feel like they have to create. Like my son, John, is an artist, and I think he just has to. And Pontus, I think your dad too was very artistic, and Angelina too. She doesn't breathe, she sings. She has to do that. That's what she is, who she is.
Okay, the light went out again at your end.
I know.
Why is that?
So I think it's a motion sensor. I just have to lean aside and turn it back.
You have to do like this.
Oh, and then another aspect of this has been the risk-taking part. So each of these projects had some risks involved. They could have failed. And we saw them all through, and they were all successful. That's another aspect of my latent personality that's coming out, because I never really thought of myself as much of a risk taker. But these projects have incentivized me to go out on a limb and get out of my comfort zone a little bit and do things I never would have dreamed of, like singing.
You've been involved in 3 projects, which you more or less initiated yourself.
Yeah.
Talk us through the 3.
So the first one, like mid-July, her EP was announced. And I had seen, reading about the fan experience, so many people had followed her since NGT or since 2016 or 17 or even 2020. And she signed the record deal in mid to late 2020. And then I think people were anticipating an album or an EP the next year. And I think that came and went. And then people were anticipated in 2022, and that came and went. And finally, 2023, finally, this album comes out. I was empathizing, I think, with the fans who have been waiting for so long. And I thought of the song At Last, that, of course, she's covered beautifully. And At Last, her EP is out. And, of course, the title of the EP was Old Enough. And for some reason, I put those together and wrote up on Facebook some modified lyrics of At Last that included the phrase Old Enough, and included several of the song titles, like I worked Diamond into there, and I'm the Fool, and so on. So I put that out on Facebook, got some positive response. Then Peter Harmel said, this should be performed. And so I thought, that's a cool idea. And it wasn't going to be me. And so I tried to find a couple of people who I'd heard were taking singing lessons inspired by Angelina. One was Pontus, but I couldn't get a hold of him. One was Bart Peters, but he was on vacation. And so then, I don't know, a few days later, I thought, maybe I will just sing it myself. Now, I've never sung in public. I've never even done karaoke. That was a step off the deep end for me, but gave it a shot anyway. It just seemed a cool thing to do. Practiced for a few days, a couple angels listened. My son, John, listened. He's done some singing. And then I recorded it. And this was all new too, like how to record something with your phone and holding the phone the right way and getting the orientation right while the music is playing. And so I put that out on YouTube. At last, my love, don't let me go. And got some nice feedback like, oh, you're brave and don't quit your day job. And then from there, I thought maybe we should get someone who really can sing, or can get a group of people together to sing. And so the idea came into my head to get a bunch of fans and reactors to sing this. And I knew nothing at the time about video editing, and I knew that Pontus did. And so I contacted Pontus, and he fortunately agreed to participate. And so the little team was Peter Hormel and Pontus and I. And over the course of a month or two, we put this project together and started contacting other angels. And in each of these, there was always like a crisis point where things could have gone great or not. The crisis point for this one was a day or two after I started sending out emails to get people to participate. It was silence. Maybe this wasn't such a good idea. No one's responding, but that changed. We started getting feedback and started getting people saying yes. And we ended up with 20 or so, including Alan, 20 or so participants, some of us who can't sing and some who really can, like Nina Schofield and the Psycho and Jacqueline Van Berk, and just a great experience. Those lonely days are over. You fill my life with song. Oh, so one piece of this that was so interesting was getting a glimpse, I'd say, into what songwriting is like. So I had these initial lyrics. When I look back at them, they weren't very good, but the germ of the idea was there. So over the course of a few weeks, I knew I was going to be singing. So I started practicing singing the lyrics over and over again. And just the process of that, I started realizing some ways of tweaking the lyrics to make them either piece together or have the right syllables or express a nicer sentiment that we wanted to say to Angelina, because this is really a tribute video that we were putting together. And so I was really happy with the end result. And I'm guessing that maybe that's what songwriting is like to some extent, is maybe not Angelina, because she does things in a take or two and she's done. And maybe that's how she writes too. But for me, it was like singing this song a couple hundred times in my car on the way to and from work was my way of tweaking the lyrics. And a little bit of help at the end from Zomi Nelson, a fellow angel whose job it is to help people tweak lyrics from one language to another. He actually works with singers who want to do a song in one language or instead of another.
Because my wife writes poetry and I'm her first line of editing. And so I don't know anything about editing a song, but I know a little bit about editing poems, and it just goes on and on. You can edit a poem for 6 months. There are always little changes where you change one word, and a poem or a song really almost has to be word perfect. And if anything, I would imagine a song would be more complex because you have the extra dimension of the music to accompany the lyrics.
I wasn't doing anything with the music. We were going to do the music from At Last.
Yeah, and then we got help from Lithgow.
Yeah, that was wonderful.
Yeah.
So Pontus and I were talking about how it would be great to have a musician appearing in the video with us. And so I found a piano arrangement and a guitar arrangement of At Last, because Pontus knew of Ludger, and then I knew of a guitarist. So they got Ludger, and he played the piano arrangement beautifully, and he was on screen in the video, and he was just wonderful to work with. So the video premiered on September 22nd, the morning of Angelina's concert in Portsmouth. So I was there meeting angels for the first time, and it was wonderful because I was at breakfast with 8 other angels who I'd never met before, but who had been involved in one of the other projects. And so I got to listen to the premiere with 8 fellow angels. So that was magical.
Yeah.
That was one thing interesting that I found out in Portsmouth. It was a remarkable day for me. The reason it was so profoundly remarkable, because it was a magical day that was entirely spent with strangers.
And the other little bit of magic with this is Pontus put out a TikTok version of the performance a month or two after the original one. I put it on my TikTok channel, and on November 19th, I remember the date, I had written a poem for her trip to Laval, to the debutantes ball in Paris. And another thing, I'm not a poet, but again, another thing inspired by Angelina, I wrote a little poem. And so I tried uploading it to TikTok, and I added one of Angelina's, who was the instrumental from the It's Magic CD. So I wanted to use that for the music. So I uploaded it, and then another angel, fortunately, was listening in, and I told him what was going on. And he said, there's no audio. And so it turns out it was like, TikTok is much more particular about copyright wise. So I took it down right away, but I put at Angelina Jordan on that TikTok. So that must have caught her attention. She must have been on TikTok right at that moment. 10 minutes later, she liked, added to her favorites, and commented about Old Enough at Last. So she must have jumped over to on my little channel and seen Old Enough at Last. And she said, let's see if I remember, OMG, oh my gosh, this warms my heart. I'm the luckiest person in the world. I felt the luckiest person in the world for having gotten that reaction from her.
That was like the icing on the cake.
We were so lucky because so many creative works have been done for Angelina. These amazing videos and these mashups and the work even that reactors do and you guys do for the podcast. And I hope that she can recognize more of those things individually like she did with us, because it's just the greatest feeling.
Yeah.
So that was the first one. The second one was the Daisies projects. In early August, I interacting with a couple of angels who were going to go to the concert like I was. And one of them brought up flowers. Maybe we can do something for Angelina. Maybe everybody would throw a rose on stage, for example. And then I thought, yeah, that'd be nice, but there's maybe some practical issues. And I thought, what if we all wear a daisy like she does on the cover of the EP? And the two people I was talking to loved it. And so that was the team, Bill and Beryl Angelis and Patricia Ferrari from Peru, who came to the concert from Peru. So that little team of four of us worked on that project of getting daisies for everybody to wear at the concert at Portsmouth for the next 6 weeks or so. And that was a joy. And that one obviously was just to show Angelina how much we appreciate her and love her. And one of these little miracles that happens with any of these things I find too is Bill Angelis, who I was talking to, his wife Beryl was in the wholesale flower business for a good part of her life. She knew a lot about flowers. She knew where to get them. She knew how to process them, because we had a lot of issues to think about. You think it would be simple, but it wasn't. We were thinking about what colors should we get? Should they be cut? How do we keep them fresh? How do we process them the day? How are we going to get people to process hundreds of daisies the day of the concert? But it worked out. And oh yeah, there were a couple of crises on that one. Someone brought, what if somebody in the concert hall is allergic to daisies? And I was picturing like hundreds of daisies, this concert hall full of daisies throwing off pollen, and some poor person or two. And it was a serious concern. And for a second, I thought maybe we just shouldn't do this. But we figured out if there's a way to spray flowers to preserve them, but it also locks in the pollen. And so that's what we did. And then the other crisis point was the night before the concert, I met with the team. We picked up the flowers just outside of Boston. We brought them up to New Hampshire. We started working on them. Beryl, who was our flower expert and was going to be running the daisy assembly line the next day, they went out for a walk on the uneven sidewalks of Portsmouth, and she fell and hurt herself pretty badly. She went to the emergency room. We weren't sure if she was going to get out of the hospital. What do we do the next day? We've got hundreds of daisies to process. And fortunately, she was okay, thankfully. Most importantly, of course, that it wasn't anything serious. She did get out later that night, and things proceeded. We processed the daisies. There was a team of 8 or 10 other volunteers, some who just joined up on the spot, joined the daisy assembly line the day of the concert, and processed hundreds of daisies. We brought them to the theater. They were all out in front of the theater. We were handing them out to people. Sarah was there, and the team talked to her about what we were doing, and I talked to her a little bit about what we were doing. I walked down the line of people going into the concert, and angels, as soon as I said a few words about why we were doing it, immediately took them. But there were people there who weren't angels, maybe didn't even know Angelina. And I got some kind of strange looks from them. Who is this person trying to give out free flowers? It's weird. But there were some people who did not take them.
You don't look like a hippie, Steve.
I know, or a member of a cult or anything. Just so rewarding. And again, amazing getting Angelina's response. She sang Diamond to start off the concert. Incredible way to start off the show. It's a cool song. She finished. She said hi to everybody. She said, wait, you guys are all wearing daisies? So she starts talking about the daisies.
You guys are wearing daisies? 'Cause, wait, I have it on my album covers. Oh my goodness. I just realized right now. Oh my goodness.
And I was like, I don't know if I was in tears then. I was in tears later in the concert from singing, but I was just so happy. And I'm sure the rest of the people who worked on it were so happy that she recognized it from the start of the concert. After the second song, she also said something about the daisies. Well, she actually said Daisy Roses. And James Steele had worked on a project where he had gotten, I think it was a few hundred angels from around the world, had bought a white rose to give to Angelina. So the roses were backstage and the daisies were out in the concert hall. And I know she was so grateful. A few of us found her after the concert and we talked to her for a few minutes. And she again thanked us for the daisies.
These I'm wearing in the cover.
Yeah.
Right.
They're
And
Gerber
then
daisies.
I can't thank you enough.
And then a few weeks later on social media, she said, I'll never forget what you guys did in Portsmouth.
Wow.
So, you know,
Yeah.
you can't get any better than that. All right, project number 3. This, like I was saying, Year of Joy, just amazing stuff. Only about a month before the concert, I think inspired by what I had seen. So the Taylor Swift thing was going on all last year. This huge thing going on with her US concert tour, sold out shows. It was like changing city economies whenever she came into town. I think I had seen a little clip before a Taylor Swift concert where some fans were just singing a couple of her songs, maybe even spontaneously. So I thought, that'd be cool. We're all going to be a bunch of angels in Portsmouth. What if we all got together and sang some of Angelina's songs? And so I put that out. It was the end of August. It was only a month before. I put it out on Facebook and I said 3 things. One, if you do something like that and we live stream it and you can't be there, because I was thinking about the angels in other parts of the world who couldn't attend, would you watch? 2, if you're going to be there, would you attend? Come and sing with us. And number 3, is there someone else who can take this on who would be willing to run this? Because at the time I was working on Daisies and Old Enough at Last. And I felt like there's no way I can handle this. And got some great responses to question number 1, great responses to question number 2, crickets to question number 3. No one was willing to take that on. Meantime, a couple other angels contacted me, Barry Souter and Bob Palmer. Barry has a videography background, been in video production, he's worked in television, and he was interested. So we started talking, how we do this. Bob Palmer is an audio whiz. He's got wonderful audio equipment. And he said, I'm driving from Pittsburgh. I could bring anything you want as far as if you need any audio equipment. And then we also got Steve Calloway involved. He's a reactor. And we needed someone to live stream. So he volunteered. He started practicing doing live streaming. So he was the 4th member of the team. It's just a small team that kind of put this all together. Special thanks to the Dancing Angels team. So Barry Souter, our leader and video expert. Robert Palmer's our audio whiz. I'm Steve Ackerman. And Steve Calloway is where? Steve? There he is. So he's a reactor and live streamer, and he's the one whose channel the live stream will be going through. And also thanks to others who have helped along the way, especially today. There's another little team that got together out of nothing, and we made this happen. So I was picturing singing. Barry had this brilliant idea and said, what about if we choreographed a dance? And at first, I wasn't that keen on it. I guess I had seen some of the Love Don't Let Me Go line dance videos. I don't know if you've seen those. but they're just as cute little like 6 Asian women is the one I seem to see over and over again, who were line dancing to Love Don't Let Me Go. And that's the picture I had in my mind. I don't know, but Barry persisted and wisely. So he contacted a couple of dance studios in the Portsmouth area, and we described what we wanted, found someone who was willing to do it. She signed up and said, yep, we'll do it. We gave her 3 songs that we thought would be good from the EP for people to sing and dance to. She picked Diamond. She worked out a routine. The day of the event, she came and practiced with the crowd for 20, 25 minutes. And then we played Diamond and the crowd danced, and it was joyful.
Bring it on, my heart is strong. There's nothing I won't do. Try to knock me down and scorch the ground. The smoke will be my proof.
So then Crisis Points, the one for that was we couldn't find a venue. We thought a park would be a great place, and we found a nice park in Portsmouth, but they didn't allow amplified equipment. We found a wedding place that had a nice outdoor thing, but that was going to be $5,000. So I was about ready to give up. And then Barry contacted the Portsmouth Rec Department, and they said, oh, we have another part of the park. It's out on an island, so it's more isolated. You can use amplified equipment. And so that's what we did. And it just worked out great. And there are all sorts of things could have gone wrong, equipment issues, the weather could have been bad, but we were so blessed and it worked. Oh, crisis point number 2. So we were supposed to start at 5 o'clock. The concert was at 8. So it was tough to get the word out because I put it out on Facebook, but not everybody's on Facebook. We printed a flyer that we passed around at the Gaslight Restaurant, which is the location for the Angel Gathering from 2 to 5 that afternoon. So I just started to talk to people. So we said we were going to start at 5. And this island park was a little bit hard to get to from where the people were gathering, from the concert hall. I had a little bit of a drive, a long walk out to the island. At 5 o'clock, there was 8 people there. And so I thought, okay, it's just going to be a little crowd singing and dancing. That's okay.
So turn off the lights.
That's okay. But luckily, between 5 and 5:15, I think about 40 people ended up coming. And we called it Angels Dancing in the Park. And we recorded it. And on August 2nd, Angelina had her own little radio station, and she played all the 6 songs off the EP and talked about them. And that was incredible because it sounded like you were in the same room with her. It just felt very intimate.
She called it
or listening party.
listening party. Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah.
And towards the end, she said, and what I would really love is if we could, I'd love to make a video of all of you guys dancing, just no matter where you are, if you're at home or if you're at work, if you're emotional, it doesn't matter. I just love to see you guys dancing to my music. And I'd like to put it together in a little music video.
Also, guys, I wanted to mention that I want to make this video of like all of you guys gathered like in one video with you just like listening to any of the songs from the EP and just dancing. Like it doesn't matter like if you're at work, you're home, it does not matter.
So that gave us the idea to do that for the Angels Dancing project. So we did the live stream. That had a little bit of a glitch because the audio wasn't working as it started. So we did the silent movie version of Angels Dancing. You saw people, this big crowd dancing to Diamond. You didn't hear anything. But luckily, Bob Palmer had recorded the audio separately for the whole thing. So we were able to put the audio back together with a video, and then we released it a couple of days later, and it was fixed. So then Barry and I forget if from the start we were planning to make a video, but we ended up making a video. And again, Barry was awesome. He drove the thing. And so you can now find out on the internet, Angels Dancing in the Park. And we were lucky again, the live stream camera was back a ways because we wanted to get everybody in the picture. But there were a few other people there who were taking footage. And James Steele happened to be there. We didn't even know any of these people were there shooting this. But James Steele happened to be there. He took some really nice footage that we ended up using a bunch of that. It was a little bit closer in. And so we made this video. And when we started out, we were talking about how many views do you think we'll get? And Barry was saying, well, if we get to 10,000 in a year, that would be really impressive. Right now it's at 23,000. And I don't know. I think part of it is because there's no sort of live action Diamond music video yet. So this
Okay.
kind of is it. So if someone wants to watch a unofficial music video of Diamond, then that's it. Angels Dancing in the Park. Again, just amazing. And got to do a couple creative things with that. Like whenever I heard the lyrics, I thought of the line, "Turn out the lights" in Diamond. I always pictured a bunch of high school girls dancing to this song. Hopefully this will happen in the future when the song becomes a hit, because it's really hit worthy. I always pictured a bunch of high school girls and then someone turning off the light during that line, and then maybe they're glowing like diamonds or something. So I told Barry that. And so we're outside. There's no way to turn off the sun. So we couldn't do it in real time, but we figured out a way to do it in editing. And so if you watch carefully, you'll see two of our sort of star dancers, these two sisters, the Cox sisters. The background disappears for a while. The lights turn off right at that line. So I was happy that we were able to make that vision happen.
Cool.
Steve, I think the room where you're speaking now is in sync with the podcast, because whenever you say turn off the lights go off.
That's funny.
Yeah, Diamond must be playing somewhere.
Steve, do you have another project somewhere between your ears? Something else
I
brewing?
do. Yes, a couple of them. One is just personal. So I've been singing a duet with Angelina in the car. And so I joked with somebody because she said the record company built a studio for her. So I say, yeah, Ford Motor Company built a studio for me. Because that's where I listen to the music a lot, because I have this half-hour drive to work. So that's where I was practicing singing Old Enough at Last 100 and sometimes. And now I'm practicing this duet 100 and sometimes. Maybe I'll put that out. But the newer project is what we call the 2-word challenge. Again, this just came to me. I don't know how. And so the idea is March 7th of this year is the 10th anniversary of Gloomy Sunday airing on Norway's Got Talent. It happened on March 7th, 2014. So when I saw that, I said, wow, we got to celebrate that somehow. It's this idea of having as many people as possible describe something about Angelina or her music or their connection with her in 2 words. Of course, you guys have spent 3 seasons trying to describe that connection. How do we do that in 2 words? But part of that was the songwriting idea that conciseness is important in songwriting. So maybe we can do that, and maybe collectively, it's only going to be 2 words from each of us, but collectively, maybe we can get close to describing our connection and what Angelina means to us. So we put it out on Facebook and asked people to participate. Thankful that both of you have. And we're up over 50 people that have sent in videos of themselves all over the world. And we're going to start editing very shortly. So we'll have Angelina on part of the screen, Gloomy Sunday from NGT. And then on the other part of the screen, there'll be angels saying their 2 words. And we have 7 or 8 what we call prompt sentences. We ask people to fill in the blanks with your 2 words. So those will appear. The name, some are in other languages, which was really cool. Some people got creative. Looking forward to that coming out on March 7th.
I think it's you that got creative, Steve, because over and over again, we hear people, since they are immersed in the Angelina Jordan world, it triggers their creativity from I don't know where.
No.
Yeah.
And it sounds exactly that's what's happened to you, because you have uncovered this talent, this organizational, inspired, dramatic, theatrical talent that you didn't know you had.
Yeah, and I think it was Richard Byrne that mentioned about moving on from introvert to extrovert scale. And that's the case for me too. Yeah. I've always been pretty quiet and, like I said, never sang, never performed. And now I'm doing these kind of crazy things and loving it. And this sort of, and so I was so lucky. So also before the Portsmouth concert, Sarah, Angelina's mom, was out talking to people. She also was filming people. So I was out passing flowers and she saw me and she came up to me. So here's Angelina's mom with her phone holding it up, and she starts asking me questions. And I felt a little bit like the deer in the headlights, but luckily I blurted something out. I think I mentioned a couple of these projects and how much Angelina inspired me and other people. And might have mentioned this sort of burst of creativity that I didn't know existed. So I was happy to be able to tell Sarah that as well.
But isn't it amazing that an artist can trigger this kind of reaction at people, which we're all grown-ups. It's not like we're teenagers. And we're putting forth things that is pretty unexpected, I would say the least. And
Absolutely.
have you ever heard of any other similar reaction to an artist before?
I haven't. Certainly Taylor Swift has inspired millions of fans.
Yeah.
And she's made a connection with her fans, mostly, I think, younger women because of the subject of her songs and her lyrics. I don't know if any of them have gone to the extent that We Angels do, but I'm sure there are other very passionate fan bases who do some fun, crazy, creative things, but I haven't heard of any.
Elvis had a lot of impersonators. There are a lot of people who do karaoke, and then they have the white suit and they have the slick back hair. So maybe in 5 or 10 years, there will be a lot of Angelina impersonators.
It could be.
People coming on with a beehive hair.
Wouldn't be surprised when she becomes the superstar that we all know she's going to be. There's going to be all sorts of covers of her. There's already starting to be covers of her music, and I'm sure we'll see even more of that. So I know one thing, you hadn't asked the question yet, but one was, has it changed me emotionally? I think outside of doing Angelina related things, maybe not as much, but because I've gotten so involved in these fun projects that it's just like I said, a year of joy is, I guess, the best way to explain it. So for me, the heightened emotion has been a sort of sense of joy that I felt this past year and learning about her and her music and then getting involved in these projects.
You've just given us the title of the podcast, A Year of Joy.
Yeah, of course.
That's really what I feel, yeah. One thing I do have trouble with emotionally is I've probably introduced Angelina to 100 people, if it's not one. And sometimes I get to the point, if they're willing to listen for a little bit, talking about the story of her giving up her shoes. And I've yet to do that. And some of these, sometimes it's total strangers. Mostly it's been family and friends, but sometimes it's even total strangers when the circumstance just happens to come up. I can't get through that story without getting emotional. And thinking of myself getting emotional with a stranger talking to them about something is not something I would have ever imagined doing before Angelina. And then there's the emotional reaction to her music. I can't get through the Nobel version of Unchained Melody without tears. And I know, Pontus, you just reacted, and I saw your emotional response.
Yeah.
That's just stunningly beautiful.
Yeah, and also the intelligence behind doing it like that and selecting that song for that occasion is pretty mind-boggling, really.
And not just the song, but the arrangement. So working with the orchestra, there was an indication, because she said she thanked the orchestra leader for trusting her. I think it was not just the song, but I think she was very involved in the arrangement. It was just beautiful, and it was perfect for the occasion, for this Nobel Prize being awarded to an Iranian woman who was imprisoned for standing up for women's rights. And her 2 children were there, and had just talked about how they hadn't seen their mother in 10 years.
And they were 17, right?
The same age as Angelina. They have in common, they're Iranian, and of course, Angelina's grandmother, Mary, is Iranian. So the 2 children were there in the room with Angelina's. And I've seen reactors who unfortunately don't know the full story. They just react to the performance and say, oh, she's doing this in a really quiet way. She could have really belted out there. But when you think of the whole context, her performance was so appropriate and fitting. Yeah. And she's amazing doing tributes. Aretha Franklin passed away. She did an amazing version of Natural Woman.
You make me feel like a natural woman.
Very quiet and subdued. When Lisa Marie Presley passed away, she did a beautiful version of an Elvis song.
But I can't help falling in love with you.
Her friend Avicii, who was the EDM person, amazing tribute to him.
So wake me up when it's all over, when I'm wiser and I'm older.
She's just amazing when it comes to doing just the right song in just the right way to honor somebody.
I think it is her very developed and heightened emotional definition that she has, where she is either inspired or she knows someone personally, and because her emotions are so detailed and articulate, she's able to transform them into her music in a way. And she's just a very feeling person. She's very in touch with how she feels.
And just intelligence off the scale in many ways. Obviously, musical genius, but mature beyond her years from years ago, and I'm sure even now. Emotional intelligence. She's just amazing.
Yeah. Have you read her book? That's also a very emotional process to get through that book, because
Yes, absolutely.
thinking about a young girl, I think she was 9 at the age when she wrote it.
9 when she wrote it, 6 when it happened.
Yeah, exactly. And just amazing how she can convey that event in such a poetic and fitting way.
And such depth. She was 6, and she was feeling a sense of empathy for this poor little girl on the side of the street.
There was one interview where they talk about meeting this girl, and the interviewer asked her, "Where was this?" And she says something to the effect that this was in the Middle East, but it could be anywhere. And I think that is so powerful that she understands, and she was 9 in this interview, that she understands that that's not the point where it is.
Right.
This could be anywhere. There are children all over the world that is in need. I think that's really a testament to her intelligence.
People born in America and Europe really don't realize how lucky they are. Their life is relatively privileged compared to 90% of the world do not have it so comfortably. When I first came to Europe in 1972, I didn't realize that there were people in the world, A, who did not have central heating, and B, who did not have a toilet bowl they could sit on.
Yeah, I'd say the majority of the world is not living in comfortable circumstances.
Steve, you've given us great insight into your world. You've given us great insight into your thinking about Angelina, and you've certainly displayed your organizational skills. And we angels admire what you do. What you do, it's like fitting a hand into a glove. It's so effortless and natural and easy for you that we take our hat off to you, Steve.
Yes, we do.
Oh, thank you. It's just been a joy is the perfect word to describe it. It's just been so enjoyable. There are stressful moments, but for the most part, it's just been wonderful and delightful. And it's been such a joy to work with these small teams and with Pontus on the one effort we put together. Pontus was amazing in his editing efforts and his own organizational skills. And then working with the greater numbers of participants, everybody who took part in any of these efforts, I'm thankful to them for their participation. Everybody was willing to pitch in however they could joyfully, because we all love Angelina.
Steve, can I tell you a secret? It is a joy for Pontus and I to be making these podcasts.
Sure, it's a lot of work, but wonderful experience, right?
It's very rich and very rewarding. Just, we meet interesting people and there's no pressure on us. We just have a nice chat. It's like going to the pub and having a drink with someone. We're having a nice chat and, okay, we're talking about Angelina, but what else is there to talk about?
Yeah, exactly. And so I was going to say, people talk about the healing effect of Angelina or music. I had a personal experience, not for music, but something else. So just last week, I had gotten the second shingles vaccine, and there's 2 shots. And I hadn't had a reaction to previous vaccines, but with this one I did. I felt really under the weather and lousy for a day after. So just last week, I got the second one. And the next morning, I was feeling really lousy, just achy, some chills, sluggish. I went to get my hair cut, and no jokes, like, why do you need a haircut? The guy who cuts my hair is a wonderful listener, but also our age, loves 60s music, the Beatles, Elvis. So I've gotten into some great conversations with him about Angelina. And he even when the EP came out, I told him about it, and he played it in the shop. And there's like 2 or 3 other hairdressers there and some customers. And
So turn off the lights.
so I'm talking to him for 30 minutes, 40 minutes about Angelina. When I got out, I felt fine. So even just talking about her has a healing effect.
That's amazing.
Does he play Angelina to his customers while they're having their haircut?
He does when I'm there. I don't know if he does when I'm not there, but a couple of times he has been happy to do that while I'm there. Maybe he's just doing it to please me. I don't know. But he's impressed with her singing. He hasn't become like a devoted angel or anything, but He says she's so soulful, she's so talented. He recognizes her talent. He's performed, he's played guitar and dance. So I think other musicians recognize her talent, maybe even more so.
Steve, if we don't use A Year of Joy, I have an alternative title for this podcast. Let There Be Light.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you both. This has been wonderful.
Yeah, thank you, Steve.
Yeah, cheers.